Hello everyone and welcome to another UnCle Heinz video. Today we're taking a look at the most recent build from AliExpress using a couple of discounted parts, and we're gonna go through the pros and cons, the specs, the reasoning for this build, and also some feature plans. So let's start by talking about the specs. What you're seeing in the side footage is Asus X99 AD4 motherboard, socket LGA 2011-3. This will support both Xeon's V3 and V4. I bought this during the discount for about $23. Normally it would sell for 38, and nowadays in December at the time of filming this video it's probably around 44. Then we have the Xeon 2680V4, 14 cores, 28 threads, 35 megs L3 cache with a TDP of 120 watts. Also I bought this for about 14 bucks, while the recommended retail price was about 21 back in June, and now it's about 17. If you take a look at the offers, you can probably find the 2680V3 for half the price, but you're gonna trade out some cores. We're talking about 12 cores, 24 threads on the V3 versus 14 cores, 28 threads on the V4. On top of that, the V4 is built on the 14 nanometer, while the V3 is built on the 22 nanometer. So ultimately, the V4 is actually much power efficient. In the description, you'll find a link to the technical city comparison if you want to have a better look. Moving on, the GPUs, I actually have two. First one is the GT210, which has 1 gig of DDR3. This is for display only. Right now you can find this for about $5 and free shipping during the festive season. Back when I purchased it was something like maybe 10 plus shipping. It does support advanced graphics in Windows, i.e. to render games, but I'm pretty sure the VRAM would be a limit. And the next piece of equipment is the Sapphire Nitro RX 470 4 gigs. That's a mining edition, so it doesn't have any display outs. I found this for about 25 bucks on the local market. If I was a bit savvy earlier this year, I'll probably have got two for like 21. Unfortunately, I missed the offer, so yeah. About the 470, so far I haven't been able to take a look at the graphics option in Windows 10, but we're gonna take a look at that later. For RAM, we're gonna use some DDR4 from Corsair Vengeance, clocked at 3200 MHz, 16 gigs, a kit of 2x8. At this point, we can find this for about $27. This combo is a good match with this motherboard, the Asus X99, as the motherboard does support both desktop and ECC RAM. However, bear in mind, can have both of them at the same time, so either we go ECC or go desktop. The good news is you could enable XMP, so BIOS does support that, and we can probably go up to 3200 using XMP or even overclock it. PSU, it's gonna be a Corsair CX450M. You can find this around 31 bucks. Now, because I already had this power supply as a spare, I didn't have to purchase on top of the build, so we're gonna come back to that later. This has been used actively between 2017 and 2018, also around 2023, until I had my GPU upgraded. On top of that, you'll probably add some accessories like cables, fan adapters. They should go like 10 or 15 bucks altogether, depending on the deals you can. Now let's do a tally. You'll probably end up with a build costing you around $147 US. However, because some of them were already available for me, like I already had the PSU, the RAM, the fans, the cables, all that brought the price down to 74. The price might change over time, could be 165, depends on the type of deal you can find. So the reason I built this PC is basically I wanted to have something which can do as many BOINC tasks as possible. Those include research for cancer, Ebola, COVID, etc., while having the same TDP like the bricks, which I made a video earlier this year. One bricks with 4 cores would run 4 tasks at 2 GHz. Takes a while, so 7 bricks would equal 28 threads. I would say probably the Xeon it's a much better deal, considering it can clock higher, somewhere around 2.8 under full load. Now about the Xeon, the base clock is around 2.4, can boost up to 3.3. However, under full load, some of the processing power may be lost. Like you'll probably notice in the task manager, it's running at 2.8. Thermal throttle is not an issue because I use a beefy cooler, the MT4 from Snowman. This is very quiet under full load, at times even more quiet than a laptop cooler. So right after I bought this from AliExpress using the Euro 2024 discounts, I left it running for a while. Then after a couple of months I did some research and got into GPU researching, like for example adding a coprocessor to help you with the BOINC tasks. However, the GT1020 wouldn't be enough for it. What I did, I had a bunch of spares R9 390s from one of my friends. Those would not post or be detected by the BIOS. However, in the stack of 8 I managed to find one of them which had a thermal issue. So I swapped the cooler and it worked for a while, but then it stopped working after a month or so. Also, the TDP is quite high on that one, so you would probably expect 180, maybe 200 watts on average on a R9 390. Then I moved on and looked for some alternatives, like for example research a bit on the mining market. You have some options like the P104, the P106, the CMX30. I then determined the P104 would be using probably around 200 watts. So while P104 can do 6 teraflops of FP32 calculation, an RX 470 can do about, let's say, 5 teraflops for about 80 watts. So you'll get half the price, half the power consumption, etc. So I went into the local market looking for RX 470s and I found some offers. Seller was kind enough to inspect it, flash it, and run for a mark for me. When I got it, I actually ended up reflashing to RX 470D, which is the China variant used in internet cafes. The reason I did that wasn't fully detected by GPU-Z when it comes to shaders and such. Now that the BIOS has been flashed, it's running at 80 or 90 watts TDP, so it's much more power efficient. Let's go through the pros and cons of this build. For the pros part, obviously you have many cores, 14 and 28 threads, so you can run about 28 tasks at the same time, plus one task from the GPU side. It's quite quiet for a system running under full load. It's cheap to build. I would say for me it was like $74. It's a small form factor considering we're using server parts and we're doing some good by helping the the science community. For the cons, it does consume a lot of power. Bear in mind the Xeon usually comes up at 120 TDP and RX 470 also can consume about 120 watts. I cannot test games. I was thinking about installing Proxmox and do GPU partitioning. Also, there are not enough expansion ports. With this configuration, I also cannot see the BIOS menu at the boot. I have to remove the 470 in order to be able to overclock, set the XMP and so on and so on. And finally, despite having so many cores, it takes a long time to complete the tasks. A GPU like the 470 or even a 1650 does a much more efficient job than the Xeon. You're looking at 1 hour on the 470 side for one graphics task versus maybe 3 or 4 hours on the CPU side. So much faster with less power consumption than one core. For future plans, I'm thinking of purchasing an i5 350 70K Z7070. That's gonna have a lot more expansion slot on the PCI side, so I can add up to 3 cards and maybe some Wi-Fi, maybe an SSD. And then I will sell the CPU, RAM and motherboard because the Z77 is actually DDR3, so yeah, the DDR4 is not gonna work. Perhaps I'm gonna convert the new motherboard into a 1080p/900p gaming system while converting the main PC to do the medical research. So in conclusion, so far this build has served me well for a couple of months. It did the trick for researching various tasks, and I feel bad that I cannot keep it for other projects like maybe an editing server or Proxmox server or any kind of server. But at the same time, I probably have to move on and look for a more power efficient solution while still helping the community. Anyway, that has been me for this video. If you like this kind of content, please remember to leave a like or a comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.